national discourse, topical issues, and serve as advocacy mechanism for inclusion of women in politics and implementation of the 35% affirmative action, which is a quota system as is being practiced in other climes. Now, as the discussion progresses, listeners can ask questions and even have or call us live via the phone. And you can call us on 08095974869 or 0803-1230293. And you can also send messages only to CDD on 07051280612 or send a tweet to the Twitter handle at CDD West Africa. The hashtag is #ChangeWomenWant. Now, today in the studio is Idayat Hassan. Idayat Hassan is a director for the Center of Democracy and Development, the organization established as an independent non-for-profit research, training, advocacy, and capacity building organization that to mobilize global opinion and resources for democratic development and provide an independent space to reflect critically on the challenges posed to the democratization and development processes in West Africa, and to provide alternatives and best practices to the sustenance of democracy and development in the region. Idayat's work includes policy, advocacy, election, governance, research, focusing on deepening democracy and development in West Africa. You're welcome.
Oh, thank you very much.
Thank you. Now, without voters or without a sufficient turnout, there can be no true election, and that will reflect people's preferences. Voter apathy, of course, is a threat to Nigeria's electoral process, and a majority of Nigerian women seem apathetic to elections, going by statistics available from voter turnout at various polls conducted in the country. And voter apathy has its causes, but it negatively impacts upon the electoral process and its outcome. Now, any serious effort at electoral reforms to bring about free, fair, and credible election must take into account the challenges of voter apathy. No doubt elections are an occasion for people to have a say in how they are governed and who will hold political power. Voter apathy is a growing concern. Our guest, like we earlier introduced her, Idayat Hassan, Director of CDD, will attempt to provide some pragmatic solutions and strategies to concerns of voter apathy among women in Nigeria as we head up to the 2019 general election. So let's start with the first question to you, Ms. Idayat. From your wealth of experience in election issues, what are the causes of voter apathy in Nigeria?
Yeah, good morning, and it's a pleasure to be back here. I think what we really have to understand, first and foremost, is the whole idea about voter apathy is sparked by a lack of interest in the whole political process, and that is why you have low voter turnout. And this is very, very important and key because it is like the only form of participation. I know there are different forms of political participation, but it is the easiest, it is the cheapest, and it is one of those few ways that we can really participate. But what we've known is people do not participate in this election because they lack trust in the system. So the first thing is, it even starts from the process, the election management system itself. It's like, okay, if I vote, will my vote count? Is it going to be reflected in the whole frame of things? You even hear some people say, they have already written the vote, why should I go and vote? Then again, it also stems from the fact that people feel this lack of trust also comes from the fact that even if we vote for them, if we vote for this candidate, not forgetting that you are voting to elect people to represent you, you are not doing anybody a favor. Are they going to actually work for the betterment of the masses? Will they deliver that dividend of democracy itself? Then when you go further also, so that's the ability to make a difference. Look, it does not make a difference, so I can just get off with it. But also, people do not vote at times because they feel a sense of exclusion. In particular, when you look at women and other marginalized groups. So already, they are already underrepresented. What is the percentage of women? What is the percentage of young people? What is the percentage of persons living with disability? In the whole process itself, how many of them are contested? So that exclusion already makes them to feel, look, we are underrepresented. And because we are already underrepresented, we do not have to actually vote in these elections. Now, what we have also seen in Nigeria is that when the electoral system is also very cumbersome, the process is on election day. It also drives people away as a result of some of these issues. So when we used to have the modified open ballot system, you go and vote, you do your accreditation in the morning, you come back to vote in the afternoon, you come back like that, that process, you'll queue on one, the long queue. Then what it means to people is like, oh, this process is just too difficult. And there is no reason why I really do have to actually come back to vote. So it's all about the lack of interest in this whole system. And when you look at it, the issue of voter turnout for us is actually, or voter apathy, which is almost the same thing, a low voter turnout, is actually a very big issue for us, because in 2015 election we had just like 43% when we round up the figure turnout. But if you then want to justify, it's either there is something wrong. At the accreditation it was like 47%, but the total number of votes plus cancelled plus everything got to 43%. Now the last few months they have held elections in places like Lagos, for instance. When they did the Fakoijaye federal constituency by-elections, they had only 2.6% voter turnout. When INEC again went to Etielsa local government and had another by-elections, they had, I think, around 183,000 people on the roll, voters, on the voters register, but only 6,000 people turn out. It was just over 3% voter turnout. Just imagine, don't even bring it into figure. 6,000 out of 183,000. Wow. So that's how big the issue are. And it differs, even when it now comes to local government elections. All the local government elections that have been held, or should just held, the local government elections, it's always mad with apathy. And this is a very big challenge for democracy itself.
Well, INEC is preparing for the 2019 elections, and it seems like many solutions are being suggested to mitigate against voter apathy. But in your advice to INEC, political parties, and other organizations, what do you think needs to be done to educate voters so that this apathy disappears?
It's like an Herculean tax. It's not just what INEC, political parties and organizations like us have to do. Is also about voters, really. It is the first form, it's the biggest form of participation. If people do really recognize that right, that look, this is my right, I go to vote, I stay in the sun for 5 hours, I stay in the sun for 8 hours, I even stay in the sun or underneath the rain for 1 hour alone, then it must actually bring something to me, and that's about accountability. Maybe when they start knowing it in their hearts that they can actually hold their elected representative to account, turnout can also increase. But in terms of political parties, first and foremost, they have the biggest work to do in terms of voter education. The work there has been limited. They just give the work to the civil society organization and INEC. And it is, yes, it is part of our civic responsibility, but the bulk of the work is on the political parties, because they have to get out the vote. It's about getting out the vote. How do they go into the nooks and crannies and get people to come and participate? You see, there are some things we even say are quite fraudulent, but it's also a means of engendering voter turnout in elections. So in Ghana, for instance, when they have their elections, you see the political parties, they will go to those places like Togo in the north, everywhere. That will be the NPP. The NDC will also go. They will also go to their. That's the NDC. The NPP will also go to all those Ashanti, Greater Accra region and something. They will go. Everybody will be bossing their people in so that they can actually vote during these elections. It goes beyond going to campaign to the people. It's also like we carry you to the place, because even when they do that, it's even so easy for them to dictate, if they are doing exit poll, how the poll actually went during that process. But for INEC, it's actually a bigger responsibility. Because if you do not have people to vote, there is going to be the issue of legitimacy, both for the outcome, whosoever emerges winner, and of course for the organizer of the whole elections itself. And so they have to emphasize voter education. They have to cut off the Herculean nature of some of the processes. So let's assume, and they do it, but it's just like we have to do it better. Where we have 1,500 people on a voter roll in a polling unit, it's very imperative to break it down to 300 so that more people, as people come, now with the new system, they can just leave immediately and more people will come and it will become very easier to vote. We have to get the card reader working very, very well so that it captures the card, it captures the fingers, it gets everything. So it's a seamless exercise. The more seamless the electoral management body makes the exercise, the more people will vote, because people will just go back to their house and say, I've gone to the polling unit now, I've voted. They'll be, you voted. Okay, let me too go. Those kind of things also engender people, because it's like, I've just spent 5-10 minutes. It doesn't cost anything. It even sways people to vote. But it's also important that this process does not just start now. It starts from this CVR process, the continuous voter registration process. It is when people can get on the list that they can vote. That's very, very important. For instance, if you don't have a PVC, there is no way you are going to vote. So it's enough time that they have to further decentralize the voter registration processes, so that people can actually get on the voters register itself.
Pretty interesting.
Well, is that something that could be done for women in particular?
Yeah, I think it's the women own. We really have to actually concentrate on it, because their responsibilities does not end. It's not like a man. On election day, a woman will want to vote. A woman will also have to take care of the home. So when the process, for instance, where they have special queue that women follow, it breaks down the process for them. They are able to immediately vote. People, nursing mothers, for instance, pregnant women, ordinary women. And when you then say women also, what it also means is that they also have, the political parties also have got a role to play. They also have to field more women if they want more votes in the elections as well.
Okay. All right, so you talked about the continuous voter registration, which is ongoing right now. Now, the popular opinion, of course, is that voter apathy begins at this point of voter registration. So do you actually agree to that? And if you do, how do we address the CVR concerns ahead of the general elections, which is fast approaching?
It's so easy. It starts, there is nothing about it. If I have to register, I have to go all the way to Cal. I work inside Tekambora. That's a long way. Then if I get to that place, there are like 100 people on the queue. Then I go on Monday. Don't forget that in Nigeria, people live on less than $2, like $190 a day now. So how many people do really have that money? Then you keep going for 5 days, and you are not able to get on the voters' roll still. How do you expect turnout? Already from that end, there is already a disenchantment with the system. And it affirms what people feel. So when you look at Afro Barometer survey that they did, I think last year or 2016, and they came up with the whole thing. It surveyed all the countries and looking at what they feel, their trust in the system, their trust in particular in the EMB system. All over the continent. It's not just trust in government. People do not have trust in their elected representative. That one is all over the world. It's not limited to Africa or Nigeria. But even the EMBs now. And it stems from this little process. So there is a need to completely decentralize. You can really understand that the challenge with INEC has to do more with cost, because they will be looking at the cost implication. how much will this cost? This is not budgeted for. But it's not about it. We just also have to, and they also have to promote, we as Nigerians have to promote a spirit of volunteerism. How many people will give space? How many people will not, even if they ask them to volunteer, they are volunteering on their own free will. They will not go and put like 500 names that are not there on the list, because it also cancels some of the arguments that comes from these people. But we have to deal with the issue of this voter registration. It must be decentralized ahead of it, before the end of this year, such that by September almost everybody that will be registering, because the implication of that is it also gives INEC enough time to plan for the other processes in the whole electoral cycle.
You've recommended a whole lot of things. Do you think INEC is doing enough? Going by the continual voter registration ongoing, based on this recommendation, and then looking on ground what we have, do you think they're actually doing enough?
I think really cost might be a challenge. We cannot take away the cost.
Because they've said that they haven't been able to take on ad hoc staff.
Yes.
They've had to use their own.
And that's why we have to talk about volunteerism. What is the NYC people? How do they get people in to work as ad hoc staff and they are not paid for this effort? Then how do we also, as actors like CDD and other partners, get the electoral ad hoc staff to understand that all these things that these politicians promise you during the whole process, that if you help us to impute 500 names on the list, you are going to get paid, that is all lies. Really, because most of the time when they promise those chaps that we are going to give you money, we are going to give you 500,000, we are going to give you 1 million, they might not even get 10,000. Then when do people start having love of country in their own hearts? Really. So that was what is showcasing, is that the responsibilities belong to all of us, from the media to the civil society to INEC to the political class and the general citizenry, because Nigeria belongs to us. And they can actually, democratization itself or consolidation of democratic gains become very, very impossible when you have issues of voter apathy plaguing the whole electoral system.
Indeed. All right, we've been on the women political platforms that comes to you every 9:30 to 10 on 95.1 Nigerian Info. And we've been talking with Idayat Hassan, who is the director at the Center for Democracy and Development. And of course, our focus have been on voter apathy. And great discussion we've been having this morning. Would love to have you come on board and make your own contributions. If you have any questions or any area you want clarity on, why don't you get on board? It's 9 minutes to 10, and would love to hear from you now. 094600-951 and 0803-1230293. You can also dial 080-9597-4869.
Hello.
Hello.
Good morning.
Morning.
Thank you. This is Abubakar calling from Gwagwalada.
All right.
Okay.
Kudos to I.
Hello. Hello.
Voters' apathy that you are talking about, most especially on the registration, is fast disappearing, because hardship and difficulty bring unity, bring sense of purpose in people. People are willing to register, but there are a lot of bottlenecks in the registration centers. The registration centers are not enough, and they do things manually. I have been to one in the Gwagwalada. If you see the massive crowd, it's mammoth crowd, and the registration is dragging. So if at least INEC is sincere, their genuine is not mere propaganda. They should create more centers. And I'm calling on human rights organizations and all other democratic related organizations. They should go on and carry out more, they should call on INEC. Thank you.
All right.
Thank you, Abubakar.
Thank you, Abubakar. And we can take more phone calls. 094600-951 1. You can also join us via Twitter at CDD West Africa or Nigeria Info ABJ. Good morning.
God bless you, my brother.
And you too.
Madam, good morning. I don't want to talk about it. Okay, please, give me police to do something for us. As you have opportunity to invite all these guests, please help us invite somebody in NPC. Let them come and tell us what is the problem.
All right, David Daniels, we'll have that discussion another time. Right now, we have a focus, so let's stay with that, please.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. This is the Women's Political Platform. We'll talk NNPC later. Hello.
Hello, good morning. My name is Felix.
Good morning, Felix. Welcome. Oh dear, we lost Felix there. Felix, do try to call us back. We do feel that there are many issues we could talk about today, but right now we're talking about the Women's Political Platform. It's brought to you by the Center for Democracy and Development. You can tweet at us at CDD West Africa using the hashtag #ChangeWomenWant. Today we talk about voter apathy. Let's see who's here. Hello.
Hello, good morning.
Hello, good morning. Yeah, God bless you.
And you too?
For 2 years now, I'm the following Nigerian report. This is the first time I called Nigerian report to vote.
Wow, nice.
For 3 years now, I'm trying to contribute with the Inya and Benjamin program. I've not been getting them for 3 years now.
Wow.
Today I got it.
Thank you.
Yeah. So my contribution is that if they are sincere, just like the other caller, if the human rights and the electoral commission, they are sincere, they should put more following you. You know how people want to stand on this one just to vote for the president. But when they vote, at the end of the day, when they come out, they cannot do anything for the masses. They will say government is not there to provide all the things that the masses need. The government, they should not expect government to do this and do that. You know, you cannot be proud of your country when the government has nothing to offer you. American person can write on the money and kick hand on the chest that I'm proud of America because of what the government gives them, what they are benefiting from the country. Now, a citizen, you cannot benefit anything as a citizen of the country. There's nothing you can benefit on. And you will go and stay in our country and say, I'm proud of Nigeria. How can you be proud of Nigeria?
All right.
When they hold the town hall meeting now, people are afraid to go and talk because it's tough. They will arrest you. Then why did you make noise?
All right.
Then what is the freedom of speech that you people give? So Nigeria, we have a lot of problems. But it's God that will help us. Thank you, my brother. God bless you.
Thank you for calling. Good morning.
Good morning, Obi.
Welcome to Women's Political Platform.
Good morning.
Good morning.
My name is KD. Obi, and so you can agree with me, by the last week I would say he has been calling for 3 years. He can't get you. When I campaign that once in a while we shall allow Demons. In 2014, I've been campaigning for that. You could refuse to accept me.
We'll soon
The
vote
last
you.
week I said it all.
We'll
We need
soon
to do
vote
that.
you, don't worry.
Having said that, yes, the 2019 election is going to be highly competitive and many voters will come out. So I want to call on INEC and the guests there to strategize and make sure every voter has the opportunity to vote. Because whether you like it or not, the awareness Nigerians have now is very, very high. So the INEC should create more registration centers and make available personnel that will handle those things. Because I know both PDP and APC, they are strategizing now to win by all means. And they may not even wish voters to go and vote. But we are bent to make sure that we exercise our franchise by voting. So they should make everything available for Nigerians to go and exercise their franchise and give the leadership to whoever God wants him to take, please. Thank you. Please listen to my advice. Let's give opportunity to first-time callers. Thank you.
Thank you, Katie. All right, lost that connection. I think we can take this last one. Good morning.
Hello, good morning. My name is
Welcome.
Felix calling again.
All right, welcome back, Felix.
Some of the problem I'm experiencing, just like last I called, that me and my wife register in INEC, I'm a registration in a New Carol, and my wife got her card, and I couldn't get my own. But there's one concrete something I'm looking at, I'm seeing. To the extent that they now know me in the office there. Okay, you don't come, and your card not there. And some of the 60% of us are complaining that don't have our cards. Without favor, without missing word, most of us are non-indigents. Most of us are not for the state. Why that? The secondly, what I'm observing now, especially when I went to Kefi and Kwanga, He said almost the same thing, which is very bad and is bad omen to this situation we find ourselves. Because whether they like it or not, many people are coming out to know to vote now. Not the issue of collecting rice, because when we collect rice, you vote for rice, so don't complain. Now, if they bring rice, collect anything they collect, but do the normal thing and do the right thing, and God bless us. Whether you like it or not, this country must move forward, and we will succeed in.
All right.
Thank you very much, Felix. Well, Idaya Hassan, any final words before we round up?
I think the responsibility lies on all of us. It's not just about INEC, it's not about the civil society organizations. It is us as citizens, really, because our future is actually in our hand. No matter what the obstacles may be, we have to get registered and we have to vote on election day.
Indeed. We have to vote on election day. So no matter the obstacles, please ensure that you keep on pushing and pushing. Today we talked about what we can do as citizens to make the system work. To make the system work, I know sometimes it can get a bit discouraging when you don't get your card and so on and so forth. But we have to make it work all the same. Well, that's how it's been on Morning Crossfire today. My first day back. Aninya is here.
Hey, Swat, you're
are
back.
you? Yes,
you
I
want
am.
to come back, eh?
I am back now.
No,
If I didn't want to come back, I would not be back.
How was your leave?
It was good. How are you? It's
I'm
good to
alright.
see you.
Hi, yeah.
How are you? You're here.
I'm here.
Hi, Opie.
How
What's
you
up? I'm good.
Well, Inya is here. Join them on the Midday Dialogue. Thank you very much to CDD for the Women's Political Platform. They'll make a return next week, Tuesday, 9:30. We will see you 5 a.m. tomorrow. Goodbye. Godspeed.
Auntie Daya! I want my job! I'm the top! I'm begging! Come on for us! Check out. I sent it to him. Oh, you sent it to him? Yes, I did.
For the news on the top and bottom of the hour, tune in to 95.1 Nigeria Info.
Write something to read it and all of that. Who wrote something? We didn't read anything.
Check. Whose recorder is this?